My interest in cannabis is more sort of plant kingdom. Like, I think she is the queen plant among all.
I've built and sold companies worth millions. I've helped brands grow, navigate tough regulations, and stay rooted in what matters. If you're building something that lasts, you're in the right place.
I suspect that the best weed is grown in Africa and India.
Today's guest is Cassandra Purdy, herbalist, hash maker, and co-founder of Sweetgrass Botanicals, a standout dispensary in Lee, Massachusetts that's already earned Best in the Berkshires.
We won Best Dispensary after being open for a couple months.
But her story goes way deeper than a strong launch. Cassandra grew up in the Northeast, lived over a decade in France, studied hash in India, and learned from some of the world's best, including her mentor, the legendary Mila Jansen.
Those couple years were really significant, and I met a lot of people in the culture that were like heavy hitters to me.
Wow.
I mean, in retrospect, I'm like, wow, those were seminal. I met Mila a few years before that when I was like 18 or something.
From bubble hash to butter infusions, her approach is equal parts science, soul, and sensory experience. She brings global craft to local shelves, lending a background in herbalism, organic farming, and cannabis-infused cuisine.
This concept of like, do what's right to you. Like, make the food that you think is delicious. Make the hash you want to smoke. Carry the flower you want to buy. Like, stick to what you know is good.
We talk terroir, taste, and what it really means to do this plant justice. This is cannabis with roots and a whole lot of flavor.
I'm Cassandra Purdy. At this moment, I'm owning a dispensary called Sweetgrass Botanicals in Lee in the Berkshires. And we have a retail and manufacturing license co-located, which is kind of unusual, right in the Berkshires on a lake. We bought an old restaurant, so it's a very unusual kind of setup with a commercial kitchen, so I can do edibles and topicals there on site. And we have the only lab on the East Seaboard on the whole East Coast, as far as I know, where you can watch into our lab and see hash demonstrated, solventless process in front of you.
Wow.
And then there's this massive, what was formerly the big dining room of this restaurant, that's a huge retail space where there's no cannabis. It's all cannabis culture. I mean, to my mind, what I consider cannabis culture. So, because I have a book translating background, there's like a huge book area. There's sliding glass doors, like view onto the lake, and there's crystals and plants and a lot of herbal apothecary stuff and clothes and hemp products and wellness products.
And you guys got an award for your store, right?
We did. We won Best Dispensary after being open for a couple months.
Wow.
Which was really like, someone noticed us. Like, we were so like head to the grindstone for so long. It was kind of like looking up and realizing like, oh man, people have been in here.
Was it a long process to get?
It was hideous. Yeah. I mean,
Did you know that going into it?
In case the CCC is watching this, but no, I had no idea. And frankly, people have asked me, and I mean, I probably shouldn't say this, but like, if we had really known realistically how horribly hard it was going to be and how discouraging a process it was, I don't know if we would have, it was, if you knew then what you know now kind of situation. It's like, wow, you have to want this bad.
Yeah. What year did you start?
Or you have to be incredibly rich.
Yeah.
Just so rich that every problem comes, you just
throw money at it.
Like, go away, here's $1 million, But we started, it took us almost 5 years.
So you started like 2020? No, you've been around for almost a year
opened
now, right?
We just had our 1 year anniversary.
Yeah.
So we opened January 2023.
Yeah.
And it had been, it was like crazy. It was 4.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so when you chose Lee for a specific reason?
There was a license available.
That's how it was back then, right?
Yeah. You're kind of like, where? Okay. And I knew that area really well because Great Barrington is kind of a cultural, if you grew up in northwestern Connecticut like I did, Great Barrington and the Berkshires are kind of like a groovy, it's like the Santa Cruz of, Connecticut, Massachusetts. It's like the cool health food store, the cool, amazing cheese shop, the cool movie theater, the music venues, like restaurants. We would zip over there from where I grew up to do something more interesting than what was going on in our area, which was nothing.
Right. So I knew West Connecticut you grew up in.
Right. And I knew Kripalu, the Amazing Yoga Institute, which is like less than 5 miles up the road from us. And I knew Jacob's Pillow, the dance festival, which is also very close to us because in my hometown, a dance troupe called Pilobolus was founded. Pilobolus and Momix are both like famous modern dance troupes. And they've been performing at Jacob's Pillow since the 70s. So I knew the area.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't nowhere, I mean, I knew it well, and I had friends there and stuff. So I knew that it was a kind of a bastion of like alternative retired professors, alternative people. It's Vermonty. It's the edge of Vermont. It's the edge of upstate New York. So I knew that there were, and obviously Great Barrington has a lot of dispensaries, and I thought that we could bring something new to the scene.
Well, Lee and Great Barrington are a little bit close, but they're just on the outside of each other, right?
Right, it's like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Lee and Lenox are closer together in Stockbridge. And
in that particular area, are the consumers, I don't know if you'd know this for sure, but are the consumers a little bit different potentially?
For sure. We had definitely skews older.
Okay, older audience.
We have a lot of, people in their 20s. We have a lot of people, tradesmen, who come in like every morning who,
their medicine,
work in the trades, and they buy their one joint of the day, and they, real regulars. And then we have a lot of older folks, like people over 50, even like over 70. There's quite good regulars. And a lot of them are people who've been into hash since the 70s, who are like,
this is my spot.
You guys are going to make hash? They're like, I remember hash, and we're like, ooh, you do? And they're like, but it's got to be like this, like that. Like they have my idea of what hash is. Like they're like, we don't need a tool and it doesn't come in a lip gloss container. They're like, what is this? They're like, we want to crumble it into our joint,
Oh, right.
They want like charas, like Moroccan hash, what I'm more used to too.
Yeah, and charas is hand-reared hash, right?
But that texture that contains quite a lot of crumbled plant material, for people like Ben, our hash maker, or people who are really into like separating the resin head from the stalk. I mean, he even considers stalk like contaminant,
Oh, really?
I mean,
just the heads.
Yeah, very like, the cream of the cream of the cream of the cream.
Right. This episode is brought to you by Good Feels, makers of Good Vibes, the fast-acting tincture that actually delivers. Whether you're into classic flavors like grape, blue raz, or strawberry, or want to try our brand new 1,000 milligram mango guava, we've got a vibe for every taste. Just pop it into your drink and feel it kick in fast. None of the wait, all the feels. Available now in 500 milligrams or 1,000 milligrams bottles across Massachusetts dispensaries or at getgoodfeels.com. As always, 21 plus only, and please consume responsibly.
It's like, to me, I miss the taste of that plant material and that dark brown, sticky, crumbly, it's just a different flavor. To me, it's not contaminant. To me, it's, it's like the difference between natural wine and traditional wine, that's like, now people are into natural wines, which are a bit cloudy and tend to go off or go fizzy, and they don't have sulfites, and it's just a rougher format.
You mentioned wine, but you spent some time in France. Where you're kind of getting that analogy? Or?
Well, like Frenchie used to talk a lot about terroir and about provenance and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I could give a cheese metaphor just as easily. But,
okay.
It's sort of like, which is also kind of French, but like, this idea of you refine something and you refine it and you're creating a purer product. But that's not to say that something that's less refined, more like the Whole Foods version of it, you know what I mean? Like it's sort of like, I don't know, white rice versus, brown rice in a way. Not that, so brown rice is healthier, so it's not totally a fair analogy.
Right, but it's also just the refinement process, basically.
Kind of.
So like you're basically losing a little bit of something that maybe some people would consider more special sometimes.
And it's also just the natural evolution of processes, right? Like people I'm talking about North African, like Moroccan hash, or some of the hash producing countries like Afghanistan, Lebanon, Parvati Valley in North India. It's like, either there's hand rubbing or they're taking dried material that's often been cut down and dried on roofs, like Mila talks a lot about this, the drying process that everybody's like, oh my God, it's so crazy. You can't dry weed this way. Like it needs to be in a humidity controlled environment and on a roof. Like what? It gets dewy at night. And like, are you kidding? But yeah, I mean, yes, these are primitive or simple ways of doing things, but it produces a certain flavor.
Right.
It's so then they take that plant material and they put it over huge metal bowls with like a kind of fine micron mesh, stretched across the bowl and tied very tightly like the head of a drum. They put the plant material on top, they cover it with another cloth, and they beat the hell out of it with sticks.
And so they get all the resin, the heads off of it that way.
They get all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's like there's all sorts of crumbled dried leaf material that passes through. The longer you beat it with sticks, you get different levels of quality. So like neo-modernist high-tech hash makers who just want to cover their eyes and groan,
Right.
What? No.
Why would you do it that way? Right.
But you end up with something that is what it is. It's a certain style of hash that a lot of us, it's our sort of point of reference of what hash is.
Well, how did you
And then it's compressed, of course.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, how did you even get into this world of hash? Where did that...
Well, I'm not as... I mean, the hash thing has sort of become a specialty because of having Ben work with us and us creating this is Ben McCabe, our COO and hash maker. And creating the solventless hash lab at Sweetgrass was always like kind of part of our manifesto. Was like, we don't want to use solvents. We don't want to, even CO2, even ethanol, like there are little concessions that people make where they're like, well, that's solventless. Like, I mean, people will argue that water and ice are solvents.
Yeah. Water is technically a solvent.
In a way,
yeah.
Right? So yeah, I'm not trying to be a snob or an elitist about it. I think that people make very delicious, terpy stuff from butane. My mentor and Ben's mentor and friend, Dan Fong, who's one of the best extraction artists in the country, uses butane, and I respect totally his process and his product. It's just not, we've decided to do something different that's just cleaner, and it's also less technical to create a solventless lab. We don't have to have blast-proof rooms.
C1, D1s and all this other stuff, yeah.
And deal with some shit that can explode. Like,
right.
I don't really...
Exactly.
We don't need that to make...
Well, even CO2, and people, this is something that I talked about on one of my last podcasts, was ethanol clearly is a solvent, or
right.
butane, whatever, and you have to have those bomb-proof rooms.
Yeah, and special HVAC.
But CO2 is also, really high pressure.
Yeah.
Right? Because we looked at the CO2 extraction equipment because we're just like, how do we compete in this market with price? Because we need to be able to maybe make our own, buy.
And you end up with something so versatile.
Yeah, exactly. And so for me, it was more of just all right, what do we need to do? But CO2 obviously runs under really high pressure. So that's a little dangerous as well. It's, for us, it's about staff safety too. To be like, okay, what are we dealing with? What are our risks here? Yeah. Right.
But I didn't really answer your question though. Sorry, I don't know how I got off on you asked about the hash thing, but how did I get in?
Yeah, how did you get into it?
So there's a long version of this story, so I'll make a shorter version, which is that I sort of have family in France, like my mom's best friend, my godmother. And through those connections, I met a woman named Mishka, who's kind of a very famous writer and cannabis activist in France. And she's sort of like another godmother to me, mentor, godmother. And her whole family and her ex-husband was a journalist and wrote a lot about cannabis and subjects to do with the sea mostly. And I ended up being invited with them to help start a publishing company in 2000 in Paris that was going to specialize in sort of taboo subjects. So I studied anthropology in school and ethnobotany and shamanism, and I was always interested in entheogens and all that stuff. And I spent a lot of time in India. First went to do a Tibetan studies degree when I was in college. I first went to India when I was 20 and have gone many, 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 many times over the next 30 years. Spent a lot of time in India. And then started this publishing company 25 years ago with these friends. I'm still they've now sold to a bigger company, but over the past 25 years, I've been sort of stayed involved. And it was through knowing them and this woman, Mishka, who's written many, many books. We worked on a lot of books to do with shamanism, to do with, we did Jorge Cervantes' books, William Texier from General Hydroponics.
And by doing them, you're
translating them into French. Yeah. I didn't translate Cervantes. Somebody else did. But I worked on a lot of these books and went to a lot of these European conferences since I worked my first High Times Cup in Amsterdam in 1994 when I was still in college. So that was a very eventful year because that was the year that Greenhouse won. Now, I might be getting this wrong, but I met Todd McCormick that year. I met, all these people. I worked at Jack Harer's table. I actually stayed with him. I didn't have a place to stay. The whole...
You stayed with Jack Harer?
Yeah. And his daughter, just to be clear.
Yeah.
A lot of important people around in the mid-90s at that cup. And it was before they'd opened the judging to the general public. So you couldn't pay to play to be a judge. It was serious. It was all the celebrity judges were all it was like Soma.
They were well respected.
Evil Bill and like all these people, Alex and Allison Gray were there. And, those couple of years were really significant. And I met a lot of people in the culture that were like heavy hitters to me.
Wow.
I mean, in retrospect, I'm like, wow, those were seminal. I met Mila a few years before that when I was like 18 or something.
And yeah, so this is very European leaning, right? Like Mila, I've heard this name many times. I've been on her, definitely seen Instagram posts of her, stuff like that. Who's Mila again?
So Mila Jansen is a Dutch woman who is famous for inventing hash making equipment that really revolutionized hash making. So she was kind of a classic 70s hippie who went overland from Amsterdam in the late 60s all the way to India, through all these hash producing countries, alone with her small daughter, Milos, who's now kind of works with her. Amazing woman who also like ended up working for the Grateful Dead and like it's deep culture people, like long time alternative culture. And Mila lived in India after that off and on for the rest of her adult life. I mean, for many, many years, and homeschooled children on the beaches of Goa. And then in the off season would take her children, she had many children, up into the mountains of North India to get out of the monsoon. And fascinating woman. And then later ended up back in Amsterdam, always in the pot culture, like working cultivation and stuff. Single mom, in and out of marriages and stuff, and kids, and very into herbalism and very amazing, interesting woman. Serious knitter. We love talking about knitting. Anyway, so
but she invented some.
She was sitting in front of a dryer one night, watching her kids' clothes dry, watching a tumble dryer, and she went like, "Oh, wait a minute! If I put my dry plant material in there and I replace the outside of that tumbler with screen and let the dry plant material, fall on its own weight on itself, and there's a pull-out drawer underneath, and wait a minute, if I put it out in the courtyard where it's 30 degrees and it's freezing cold, what we used to call pollen that we now call trichomes, they will all snap off and fall into this lower panel, right?
Right.
So she invented this thing that she called the pollinator.
Oh, okay.
And she also invented the bags way before Bubble Man. This is a point of much contention. I respect him and love, I respect him very much. But she invented that stuff, the micron bags resting into each other. And when I was in my early 20s, I helped her do many demonstrations of this, the bucket technique with
the bag.
Yeah, with like a drill with a paint stirrer on the end, and we would haul bags of ice.
So this is the 90s then?
90s, yeah.
Wow.
And she started making those. I remember she came to do a cannabis event in Paris, and I was like her assistant, like get the ice and throw the shit in the bucket with bags and borrow a drill and like show people like, yeah, and you catch this stuff. People were like, what is that stuff?
What is that?
Dirt?
Yeah.
And
especially if it's like a really dry plant and it's like it does have a brown.
I mean, the whole idea of fresh frozen and like it was.
That's so revolutionary. Now you think back to that, wow, that was.
And people called it pollen. We used to call it pollen.
I know. I remember this, and I also, I got into hash through Frenchie videos,
right?
Frenchie's instructional videos on YouTube, because I was just like, and then I got the bags and I got my little washing machine and all this whole thing and throwing ice in
the tabletop washing machine.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Things like
Mila
that.
makes and sells those still.
Wow,
but her, the business is called Pollinator.
Yeah,
and her son had a shop where they sold grow equipment. It was sort of dispensary and shop. And she also had a place called the Hemp Hotel in Amsterdam that was like revolutionary, like an amazing hospitality spot in Amsterdam where during the cups, the rooms would be triple sold out. Everybody wanted to stay there.
Right.
And it was all like hemp sheets and hemp mattresses and hemp bathrobes and hemp soap and like a beautiful bar and everything painted and all the history of cannabis. Like different rooms had murals. And I mean, it was like the dream cool thing, but she was so ahead of her time.
That is
so ahead of her time every step. And then she's created this thing called Dabadoo that's, one of the most respected hash competitions in the world.
Where is that held?
All over the world. Like she did a big South American tour last year and did it in, I forget how many different countries. And we hosted a New England one last May. And she came over for that. And we did it in New Bedford or Rehoboth.
Oh, Rehoboth, okay.
Yeah. And we're going to do it again this fall. In September, I hope, like near us, but in New York State. And yeah, it's a hash competition, very well respected, solventless and solvent.
Will there be 2 distinct categories then?
We only did solventless.
Okay.
We made it a solventless thing because we were just not prepared for it to be. I've worked at the one in Barcelona many times with her. She does it the same week as Cannabis. And it's kind of crazy, and it's really intense. Everybody's jammed into a social club and it's so much fun. But you only have a few hours to judge. You're given a tiny little smush of the hash and a piece of tinfoil with a number on it. And it's like, it's kind of, there's just some ham and it's full of smoke and it's just like, it's Spain and it's, we wanted to do something that was like 2 days, sort of outside, like we could breathe and there was a little time thing
to actually judge.
So we did it that way, and we'll do it again like that.
And Cannabis just happened, I think, though, right?
Yes,
Did Dabadoo happen at the same time? Or
yep, she did it. Yeah.
Wow, so that just recently enough.
Yes, and it's the last year that Cannabis will be in Barcelona.
Oh, why is that? They said?
The location is being torn down, the convention center, and they're moving it to Bilbao, I believe, which will be fun. That'll be really cool too.
Wow. So I mean, there's just so much history, and there's so many names that you've already mentioned that it's hard to kind of get a grasp on. Even follow-up questions and all that, because I could go for so long on just hash alone.
It is a really interesting subject, and it also comes from such interesting places historically.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't know as much about neo-modern hash making. I mean, that maybe you can, when you talk to Ben McCabe, he can really talk to about the whole, all the companies in California and who makes the best rosin and who, that's not so much. I really have a different history with it.
Exactly. And do you think...
It's like more smoking chill-ums, really.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And kind of, not to get too controversial, but do you think, is there a right way to do hash?
No. I mean, I don't think so.
So it's like...
Personally...
As a preference thing.
I mean, I really come at all of this, flower too, and owning a dispensary too. I come at it from a very peculiar perspective, which I admit, it's like I'm coming at it from a sort of anthropological perspective. So I'm more interested in the culture of these things. And I come at it from a very plant medicine perspective, which is like, I've studied herbalism a lot. A lot of my friends are herbalists or naturopaths or organic farmers. I worked on an organic farm for years because I'm a chef. That's how I've earned my money primarily. So my perspective on cannabis leans heavily towards cannabis that's been grown in living soil with mycorrhiza and stuff.
Right.
Natural growing, outdoor farming.
Outdoor.
How,
Right.
Other plant medicine, the synergy between cannabis and mushrooms, psychedelics, nootropics, medicinal mushrooms, other plant allies, my interest in cannabis is more sort of plant kingdom. Like, I think she's the queen plant among all, among others.
Right.
But to me, that was my dream of opening Sweetgrass in a way, was to have an apothecary style dispensary where it wasn't just about cannabis and it wasn't just about getting, messed up and about high tech, and that it was really about like everything that the plant world brings us and why, and all the different cannabinoids and all the different terpenes and selling other stuff, like having events and having, not selling other events, but I mean like selling other products and having, like we're throwing a mushroom festival on June 7th and 8th.
Oh, it's dispensary.
That will be, it's the second year, the Berkshire Mushroom Festival. And there are going to be panels and workshops and talks about like foraging locally for edible mushrooms and about making mushroom dyes and about psychedelics and trip sitting and integration. And we're co-hosting it with Dan Shankin from TAM Integration, who's like a psychedelics integration person.
That's really TAM a little bit.
Yeah, really interesting. So, it's things like that, which I guess to most people in the dispensary world is like,
right. It seems counterintuitive because I think, personally knowing a lot of dispensary owners, they're thinking cash flow. They're thinking what sells on our shelves right now.
Cash flow too.
Well,
I should be thinking about it more. Probably.
Right. But you know what I mean? Like, it's more of like what sells really well, and let's bring more of that product in without necessarily like an ethos behind it. Right. And so it seems like you're coming from that pure space of like, hey, the plant is special, and also just as an ethnobotanist or however you want to describe yourself in those terms, be able to just have a deeper understanding of like how this kind of interplay works, and even being able to provide education through even having books in your dispensary and stuff like that. I think,
and we've had a lot of book signings. Like Danny Danko came and did a book signing and was there for a hash demo, and We've had a few other people come and do book signings because I'm like, this is the Berkshires. People still read, right? There's like, Simon's Rock, and there's, the Northampton 5 College Consortium. And there's like a lot of literate people around who'll buy books still.
Oh, absolutely.
And we have like a book nook where people can sort of sit and hang out and have a cup of tea and like just spend time with a book. They don't have to buy.
That's fantastic. So wait a second, do you also, I mean, I know it used to be for a restaurant, but...
You can't serve food.
You can't serve food. Is that a CCC regulation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In your dream world, would you have like more...
Totally.
social?
My dream world, it would be social consumption. And
Right.
I don't think our town, it's unlikely that our town, well, who knows? I would love if that were, I would love if it were even possible. I mean, forget about being able to light a joint, which is like
Right.
probably never.
Right.
But even just being able to like bring someone a pot of tea instead of having like we have like a self-serve setup,
Exactly.
which is fine. I mean, it's just, it would be great to have like a kind of a cafe situation. And we have a whole upstairs that overlooks, we're right on the banks of this massive lake called Laurel Lake that people call the Jewel of the Berkshires.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so we have this huge deck that overlooks the lake. And I mean, it would be great. It would be a perfect place to do social consumption.
So
and that's kind of on the docket right now with the CCC.
I know. Well, there's definitely going to be some questions coming up. I do have the executive director coming on.
Oh, cool. I'll watch that.
Soon. And we're going to definitely talk about social consumption. Yeah. And they're,
we all understand their fears.
Of course, right? And, I do think of, how to tell people are intoxicated is obviously a really big deal. Like, how do you not overserve somebody or whatever, right? So, but barring those kind of questions for a second, like so you're manufacturing and retail. Mm-hmm. So that means you're not cultivating, which means you're sourcing. So Ben, when he's making the hash or overseeing the hash making process, you're sourcing from other cultivators in Massachusetts. Are you looking for outdoor people or indoor people?
We're completely limited to what there is in Massachusetts. And thank God, I mean, as much as I wish we had opened 3 years earlier than we did, in a way, the blessing in disguise is things sifted out in terms of cultivators over those years that we were like, like waiting to open, like, Actually, it's good because during those 3 years, Ben and I have been driving all over the state visiting cultivations because, we're into the plants and the grows. Right. So we're not just like, hi, show us your COA. Maybe we go and see it. We want to be in the room.
See the plants.
We want to see the plants.
Right. And
we want to see the nutrients and we want to see everything.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to hide things if you just go and watch the plants themselves.
So we've had years to go visit cultivations and new ones came online. And now that we're up and running with the lab, Ben does not process anything that he hasn't seen in person.
Wow. Okay.
Living.
Yeah.
We just don't.
Right. So you kind of have an allocation. You work with a farm and you say like, hey, we want this broom almost. Or like.
Well, he does jar tests. And again, he can explain all this, but he doesn't just commit to kilos and kilos, like we make sure it's going to wash well.
Is it?
That's
the jar test to actually make sure it washes well.
You make a little tiny batch, where you put a little weed. Anybody can do this at home. A little mason jar, ice, very cold water, put the material in there, shake it up and see, you see the trichomes at the bottom of the jar and you see if it's like pitiful or if it's like plentiful.
Right, exactly.
So anyhow, or somebody will have some data like I've washed this, I know, blah, 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 or I washed this in the last place I worked or something. So we go and see. I mean, if it's hash, he definitely makes sure he sees it. In general, any flower we carry in the dispensary, we chose.
You chose.
Very carefully.
Very selectively to be there.
So that's something that people are starting to kind of appreciate is we're not just like, who's got a deal? Who's got a deal? Who's got a deal?
Exactly.
Oh, I don't care. Who is
like 20% discount?
Yeah, we're like, who are that? What's it called? The brand? We're like, no, wait a minute. Who is this? Is this an MSO?
Right.
Where is the grow?
Right.
Do you know the guy? Do you know anybody who knows the guy? Should we go there? Okay, let's go there. We don't. So far, I mean, I don't mean to sound like boobity boo boo, but it's like there's only like 3 of us running this.
Right.
And so far, we're sticking to our morals and our manifesto, which is. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, talk to me in 5 years and I'd be like, I don't know what we're even selling.
Right.
I don't know. But right now, I'm like, no.
Right.
We are really selective about what we carry. We have everything for every price point. I've owned a bar before, so I know
that
you need to have PBR and you need to have cognac. Like, you need a $2 beer and you need a $8 rare heady topper kind of super special thing, you know. You need
that variety.
High and low. You need house gin in the rail.
That's right. You need the well gin.
Yeah, you do. And you need the fancy botanical local gin, you know. So we are really careful to have something for everyone that, you know, you can come in with $10 and leave with something, you know. And we really can say that we stand by. Like, there's nothing in that shop, not a lighter, not a rolling paper, that I didn't pick out.
Wow.
I pick out every single thing in that big room.
It's a reflection of you, really.
Well, I'm trying to be like, hey, guys, like, you know, people come in with their friends who don't smoke.
Right.
Like, people come in with their mom and their aunt and, like, on a Berkshires hiking, let's go out to lunch, wander around kind of thing. A group of friends, half them don't smoke.
Yeah.
They come, and the people who don't smoke spend 45 minutes shopping in the big room. Like, oh, this is made of hemp. Oh, look at this book. Oh, cool, microdosing. I'm curious about that. Oh, tarot cards about plant medicine or whatever. And they shop, and the people who are into weed buy weed, and they find some commonality there, you know. But in terms of the sourcing, Ben is super careful about what he processes because he makes some of the best hash in North America.
Right.
Like, he would be like, but he does.
Yeah.
He does.
Exactly.
So he, you know, garbage in, garbage out. Like, he gets really good weed to process, and it makes really good hash.
That jar test, I'd never heard of that before. Yeah. I think that's really...
It's a good little trick.
Yeah, because talking about the mother plant, right? Not all cannabis washes well.
Could be too greasy. Could be too slippery. It could be too... And he can tell that. And I'm starting to, you know, I'm learning a lot from looking at plants with his eyes, you know.
You're right.
He can tell by touching, obviously, you know, with a black glove. You can see if it's like, oh, this isn't going to go granular. This is going to smear.
Right, exactly. And it's all the oils in the water and everything, yeah.
It gets on the bags, and you can't get anything to pass through because the bags are all gunked up and stuff. So he knows that. And then I'm like, well, but that looks like great flour. So let's get it as flour.
Right, exactly.
You know, sometimes we're like, okay, this is not for hash. This is, you know. And now we have Sweetgrass brand, which is, you know, I always thought that was a really bullshit thing to do when I went into dispensaries and I knew they didn't have a cultivation. Be like, what do you mean this is your brand weed? You don't grow weed.
Right.
Well, we have Sweetgrass flour and Sweetgrass pre-rolls, which are bulk stuff that we source
bulk
from some of our favorite growers, and we put our name on it because we chose it, and it's always a very good deal. It's a great price for an eighth always, and it's great weed.
Do you think, like, the weed that this is, again, I'm not trying to be controversial, but I will push buttons sometimes.
People want to hear interesting stuff.
But what I think of, when I think of best weed, that triggered
it's different for everybody. Who knows?
Exactly. It's definitely different for everybody. And, you know, there's tack hunters, there's all the other things we can get into in a second. But the question specifically in this case is, if you, with all your experience in hash, as well as just smoking flowers, stuff like that over the years in Europe and potentially all across the world and in India, etc., like, where is the best weed grown?
India.
It is.
For me.
Yeah.
Now, I say that having never visited Jamaica.
Okay.
Having never visited plenty of places. Like, I've had great weed that came from Thailand. I would say unequivocally, I mean, I love the African strains too, like Malawi and any Nigerian haze. And I suspect that the best weed is grown in Africa and India.
What makes it so special?
I think the Indian weed for me is I'm a haze lover, and sativas and hazes, right? They grow best in high altitudes, cool weather, where they can grow crazy tall. This is why nobody in Massachusetts cultivations want to grow sativas and hazes. They have too long of a run time, you know? They're too tall.
Can't turn over the rooms fast enough.
No. Yeah. You know, I mean, you're running the chicken farm. Like, you're cutting down in 8 weeks, period, end of story.
Right.
So if I'm like, I wish someone would grow Neville's Haze, or someone would grow, you know, it's like Super Silver or something. No one.
Yeah, no one will touch it.
Because it's going to run 12 weeks and it's going to burn against the lights, and you have to keep lifting the lights, and it's all gangly and it's very bad weight, terrible, fluffy
for the size
that are, you know, like it's a messy, crazy. It's like those inflatable men in front of car dealerships. You know, it's like it's just long and gangly and crazy and tiny little puffy buds and Nobody wants to grow that stuff.
Nobody.
But in North India, all over the roadsides and hillsides and, and lots of, it's just growing wild.
Right. Yeah, I think about those because everybody's just like, oh, New England doesn't have the climate, doesn't have all these other things going for it. So like they can't grow good weed. But there's some...
That's not fair though, because in my legacy experience, let's say, like Vermont, some of the best growers, Vermont is the Humboldt of the East Coast, right? Northeast Kingdom of Vermont. And they have like 5 minutes of summer.
That's true.
And they grow unbelievable weed.
That's amazing.
Like Rebel Grown, this guy Rebel Grown, who's, won a lot in California, and he's a Vermonter actually. He's growing up there. He grew up growing up there like so many freaks. For 40, 50 years, there have been people growing amazing weed in Vermont. And they have like, it's May through September that it's not snowing.
Right, exactly.
So shut up. You know what I mean? It's like...
So it does exist.
If you want, it does exist.
Yeah.
It does exist. I used to sell it. I used to grow it in Connecticut. We grew Northern Lights Haze No. 5, was like a big strain for a long time. We have a decent summer. You've got a few months to get it in. But, those last nights in October, you might have a frost. You're throwing a bed sheet over your plants, It's possible, but it's not possible in the legal market. It's just not happening.
It's not the same.
They need a greenhouse. The testing is brutal for contaminants. In some respects, even though I come from an organic farming background, working on organic vegetable farms and stuff, and, I do believe in soil testing and checking for contaminants of all sorts. But if you want to grow outside and you are in a agricultural area, even vaguely, if someone is growing a genetically engineered crop 5 miles away, if there's an apple orchard that sprays, it's going to blow, and your weed is going to test for stuff that you did not spray.
Right.
It's very difficult, for heavy metals or...
I've actually seen something recently. I think there's a farm that was spraying and...
They themselves were spraying.
No, a neighbor farm was spraying, and then a CCC licensed operator was getting popped for like pesticides or something.
It happens all the time.
Wow.
And even if you have an indoor space, but with like louvered roof, sort of greenhouse, like allowing some natural light or air, it can blow from miles and miles away.
Yeah.
And it's too hard to control. And then a lot of people end up having to put all their material through biomass to become distillate or whatever.
Exactly. You process it all in at that point.
So much weed is, I don't mean to tell tales out of school, but like so much weed is remediated.
Yeah.
It's scary to me. I do not want to smoke remediated weed. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like that's another thing we will never do.
Yeah.
UV, whatever. I don't want... No thanks.
Good Vibes is more than a product, it's your cannabis toolkit. Drop it into your drink, mix it into tea, kick up your mocktail, or just pop it in straight. You can even bake or cook with it. Our unflavored option is perfect for brownies or any recipe where you want control and precision. No more guessing how strong your edibles are. Available in 500 milligram and 1,000 milligram bottles, and flavors like strawberry, grape, blue raz, and our newest, mango guava 1,000 milligrams. Grab your toolkit at dispensaries across Massachusetts or at getgoodfeels.com. And as always, 21 plus only. Please consume responsibly. The testing stuff obviously is complicated too, though, because...
Very. I'm glad I don't have a cultivation.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can just be like, if Ben or whatever, or you like something, you're like, let's bring this in, and we know it already passed the test results. You go ahead and make it at that point. And so what are you making in the lab? Like pre-rolls, loose flower, things like that?
We have a knock box. We're not making pre-rolls. Those are,
those are ones you're purchasing from...
We purchase them.
So what are you making in your...
We're making solventless hash every day. That's what Ben is in there doing.
So no infused gummies or anything like that?
I have a kitchen. I have a commercial kitchen also. So we have the lab that's just his
solventless
hash tech machine and his press and his solventless lab. And then I have the old commercial kitchen from the restaurant where at the moment I'm making a hash-infused olive oil, 100% organic extra virgin olive oil. We're making a lube that's MCT oil. We're making a massage oil that's organic jojoba oil with some essential oils in it. We're making, did I say infused butter?
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, so edibles-wise, I make, the first edible that I released was hash-infused butter, and we just won second place at NECAN for that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's a solventless hash-infused Cabot butter. I was torn between trying to, because it's important to me that everything be organic. but I love Cabot, and I love
Cabot's Vermont?
Yeah, it's a Vermont cooperative. And it's very good butter, salted butter, and very high butter fat content, which matters a lot. There's not a lot of water in it. It's very good butter. So anyway, it's Cabot butter, and it's just a salted butter with hash in it. And I figured because I'm a cook and because I really want people to, this is controversial too, is I'm not anti-gummy, but I'm kind of like, gummies? Like, okay.
I think more creative than that.
Like, aren't there? There's a lot of gummies.
Yeah,
there's
a lot of
something like almost, there's like 1,850 infused gummies on the market in Massachusetts.
Is there really?
I think that's what my consultant guy told me last time I asked. It just seems like we don't need another gummy.
Right.
And also, I want people to feel, I want to demystify the whole edibles thing. I don't want people to feel like I have to buy a pill that looks like an Altoid because I'm scared. It's like, wait a minute.
Right.
We've all been making pop brownies. Like, you did it in college.
Decades and decades.
You put the weed right in there and you're crunching on seeds and stems and you like feel sick and you fall asleep for 3 days. Like everybody's dying. You know what to do with butter.
Right.
Like butter, you put it on your toast, you fry an egg in it, you put it on your pancakes, like butter. Right. It's a familiar ingredient.
Exactly.
So the idea was like start with Kitchen 101 basic ingredient, butter. And I'm starting to put out like recipe cards of how to use the butter.
Nice. That's a nice compliment to any kitchen ingredient.
Yeah. And the olive oil is 500 milligrams of THC because it's a tincture.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's
a tincture.
Mm-hmm. So it's extra virgin olive oil. It's up to you what happens to it.
How many ounces is your olive oil?
I should know this. It's a traditional olive oil bottle, like a slim, square-sided, like a.
So is it like 8 ounces?
I'm blanking on how many ounces it is. I should know this.
Well, I'm just because I'm thinking
Maybe
about
it's 10.
I'm thinking about dosing because it's 500 milligrams.
So it's a half a teaspoon is 500.
Half a teaspoon. And so therefore you can, because if you're making like a stir fry or something like that, you want to add that in.
Right. If you're going by the 5 milligram rule.
Exactly.
Which
do people have like loose pores? They're kind of just like, I'm cooking.
It depends on your preference. I mean, as an edibles chef, I have to say one of the great mysteries of this plant is consuming it orally. No one, even the best researchers, even Meshulam before he died, like, the best research on cannabis, it remains a great mystery in a way why different bodies respond differently to eating cannabis.
It is a mystery.
Like
my mother-in-law is not she's not a responder. How do you say it?
Yeah, there's a blank, right?
Nothing.
I know several people who have zero reaction. I know people who are highly sensitive.
And there's people who can smoke a ton of flower. Yeah. They're also very high sensitive too, or something like that.
This whole thing of like, well, I smoke a lot. So
right, exactly.
I can take a 200 milligram chocolate bar. It's like, no, it has nothing to do with...
Not connected.
No. I mean, like this guy, our mentor and friend, Dan Fung, he could eat 200 milligrams of weed and then take out the manual to some incredibly complex piece of equipment and assemble some sort of extraction equipment that he would speed read through the manual and be like lucid. I mean, he's unaffected, totally. Yeah. But I mean, he could also dab all day and do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people just have a kind of mental cognitive resistance, and some people have a digestive resistance.
Yeah.
So back to the whole dose thing with edibles. You're supposed to take 5 milligrams.
Of course. And we would only recommend people taking 5 milligrams and feeling how they feel.
And wait an hour.
Waiting in.
Low and slow.
Exactly. Anybody who's new to cannabis especially, definitely take it that.
Horrible. And I readily admit that an unexpected, unwanted edibles experience can be awful.
Yeah, it can be. Absolutely. Yeah, we always say stay low and go slow.
Yeah.
So are there future for like other types of, comes out of that kitchen?
Oh, yeah.
Are you going to do some fresh baked goods? I think somebody was trying to do that at some point. Like, hey, we got croissants or whatever it might be.
Yeah, so the problem with...
I mean, you got, wait a second. In basically, you were, obviously we can get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Were you also a chef in France too?
I did some cooking. I baked for farmers markets and did a lot of stuff to make my living.
I bet.
But I also would live there, like 8 months and then come home and cater and private chef and stuff in the States.
Because you've got all this experience being a chef. I'm imagining.
I've opened restaurants and restaurant consulted, and I still cater and like weddings, and I have a mobile wood-fired pizza oven that I fill with a school bus, which is often parked in the parking lot of the dispensary.
Oh, fun.
Oven. Yeah.
So it's a mobile pizza oven?
Yeah.
That's
with
awesome.
a school bus that pulls it.
That's fantastic. So a
for
school bus pulls out the...
Yeah. So for like
pizza.
10, 12 years, I had a business, still have a business called Pizza to the People. And we did all the music festivals and yoga festivals and stuff in New England as a food vendor.
Right. And so when you're talking about like future things coming out of your kitchen,
Yeah.
you're going to lean on obviously all that experience to be able
Yeah.
to put something out there. But
I hope people like it. It's going to be, so you can't really do like fresh baked goods because they're good for 2 days, right? And you have to send the stuff away to the lab, have the results come back.
Yeah.
Then you can package the batch. If the results come back not how you want, you have to melt down, redo, destroy, and get rid of or whatever. So, you can't correct things really.
Right, exactly.
So that's why so many people do shelf-stable candy because it's good for a year.
Right.
And it's a big batch and you test it and it's very easy to dose and control.
Right.
I'm just not that into candy and confections. Like I never studied confectionery when I was learning about cooking. I can do chocolate work, but I don't. There's so many, I love moments. The chocolate bars that Andrew and Haley make for, that's delicious, high quality, organic, fair trade chocolate with delicious formulations. I'm like, why? First of all, why would I compete with friends?
Right.
And they're already doing it perfectly, exactly the way I would want to do it. Yeah. So let me just sell their chocolate.
Right. Exactly.
Let me bring something else, So I'm going to do definitely like a garlic and herb butter. We'll probably do a hot honey or a cinnamon sugar. I'm going to do cream cheese frosting and ganache, which is basically high quality chocolate mixed with, melted with heavy cream. So that from that you can make truffles, you can make mousse, you can frost a cake, you can melt it and put it over ice cream. It's an extremely versatile thing. And it's in like a little tub, a little craft paper tub in your freezer. So it's stable in that sense that it can be 6 months in your freezer.
Right.
So if I want to do baked goods, which I very much do, I think I will do them frozen. And you either have to bake it off, like it's a little...
Like a little cookie puck or something.
Well, yes, something that you bake. Or a little chocolate flourless cake or something that you just thaw and eat,
Yeah.
But I would like to do things that can be baked off, like raw scones or raw cinnamon buns that you have for a stoner's brunch on a Sunday, and you take it out of the freezer the night before and bake it off that morning.
It's fantastic.
And I am going to do like chocolate covered espresso beans, which is a candy, do a collaboration with a great local coffee place called Six Depot.
Six Depot, that's fun. So but I think there's complications with some of that stuff too, because I remember I was touring a facility once that they were making chocolate covered something. It might have been coffee beans back in the day, but that's no longer exists on the shirt.
Displacement of the coffee bean, right?
Well, you have to put the little symbol on it or something. And
it's on a tiny little thing.
Yeah, you got to like spray the confectioner's whatever.
Or a stencil. Something comes down and goes to chunk or whatever, yeah.
So... Oh, man, that just seems like such a hassle.
It is. And they've loosened up a little bit. I wanted to do hot sauce and jam and maple syrup and honey and all these kinds of things. And in the beginning, this is another blessing in disguise of the fact that it took us frickin' forever to get open, is that things have like evolved.
Yeah.
In the beginning, when I talked to the CCC about wanting to do, someone did a hot sauce finally before me. And now we sell Beard and Blaze.
Yep.
Second Act Cannabis is delicious. Such a good hot sauce. But, they were like, nope, it has to be individual 5 milligram portions. So I was like, wait a minute, you mean I'm going to have to put it in, like in a diner, those little tubs of jam that you have to peel back?
Yes, that's right.
And I was like, so you're going to have to do like a box of like all these little 5 milligram jam or 5 milligram hot sauce. And luckily they relented on that and they saw the kookiness of that.
Yeah.
And now you can do 100 milligram container and you don't even have to sell it with the spoon.
Right.
People are allowed to figure out what a teaspoon is.
Right, exactly. As long as you put instructions on it, what you actually, how you can dose it. Yeah, I think the biggest pushback that I saw in the very early days when we were even getting into it was Cloud Creamery, if you recall.
The delicious ice cream.
They had all this ice cream. And there's a bunch of chefs out there, right? David's a chef.
Yep.
Eric Rogers is a chef. He's the one who is Beard and Blaze.
Yep.
Like, he created this really great ice cream. And even made a vegan flavor for me.
Yeah, so good.
But he had this controversy with the CCC, but they were just going back and forth of like, because he was like, oh, I'll just put a clear line in the tub and say that's 5 milligrams, that's 5, so you can at least see where the 5 milligrams is. And then they made him make individual single serving containers. And it's just like all the extra work it goes into making this. All the additional packaging requirements on top of that, like just being able to source all those units now. And now how much can you charge for that one thing? So all the prices go up too. So I felt terrible when he was going through that stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm glad their CCC has kind of come around to being like, well, it's just unreasonable.
But they've stopped. And now at Betty's Eddies that was making ice cream also stopped.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
So I'm really worried because I want to carry ice cream.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hello? Is anybody going to make ice cream? Like, I hope someone's going to carry the torch, because making ice cream, even without cannabis, is a highly regulated, complicated thing in the world of health inspections.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And so when I always think of those things, I think of all the equipment and all the resources that have to go into it. And then how many people are actually looking for these types of products. That's kind of where the...
Ice cream is... People loved that. You know, and seltzers. I mean, it's not the way I choose to get high. Mm-hmm. It's fun. And that, frankly, that ice cream was delicious of its own merit. Like, you would eat it for the pleasure of that ice cream was so good.
Right, exactly.
And by the way, you get a little, little buzzed from it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I mean, I don't think of let me drink a seltzer to get high. But that's just because I don't think of it. You know, I'm not
That's not your thing. Right,
yeah.
exactly.
I'm a joint smoker still. So, or a chillum smoker.
Do you do like infused catering jobs or anything like that?
Yes, I have been doing infused dinner parties I probably did the first one 30 years ago or something.
Wow,
like,
okay.
As a young, probably not knowing enough, definitely knocked some people out. But I've been doing much more thoughtful infused dinners. I did one recently in the Berkshires for somebody's 40th birthday, and it was really fun.
Do you go around and ask everybody their tolerance? There's like a little info card in the beginning that says like, hey, fill out this form, and I'll...
2 weeks before.
2 weeks before?
Yeah, because I have to plan the menu, and I'm a dork, I'm a caterer, so I'm just like, I think about the hors d'oeuvres for 2 weeks. I have to send away for the Aleppo pepper or whatever,
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So I send like an intake form to everybody and say, what's your experience with edibles, and if you've had access to legal cannabis, do you know the dose that you prefer, or did you ever have a really bad experience? Because some people are like, one time I woke up in Chicago in the subway on a bench, and you're like, oh God, okay. So like somebody has a real attitude of fear or something, or somebody's like, oh yeah, I know my number, I want to hit 20 by the end of the evening, I'd like 5 in the beginning, I'd like to have a smoking break. Like, some people really know their shit.
Whoa.
And they know they're
dialed in.
Yeah.
So when it actually kind of translates a little bit to Sweetgrass as well, the retail store, because then it's like you're getting people who are coming in new, right? And are you seeing any trends with your particular audience? Now, you're getting some regulars now, you said. What about, like, you had said in the beginning of the conversation that it's a little older, right? Are you having to do a lot of education with an older crowd, or they're just coming in because they're like, oh, it's hash and I know all this stuff that's from this?
No, because we're still not doing hash that they recognize. We've been doing some temple balls. They're still quite sticky. They're really good. Yeah. They're very,
but they're not that.
They're not crumbly, dried, old-fashioned hash yet. Right. Which, we are going to definitely put.
Okay. Is that Ben doing it then still?
Yeah.
You have to twist his arm to be
Ben
like, hey.
touches nothing has been made yet that didn't have Ben's hands on it.
Okay.
And he has help in the lab. We used to have a kid named Ben Shiner. He's not with us anymore, but now we have Travis Humiston, who's a friend of mine from Connecticut, and he's working with him in the lab. But Ben still makes all the hash. So yeah, the older community knows a lot more than they get credit for. Mm-hmm. They know, like we have a regular who must be in her 70s. She comes in a couple times a week, and she's like, she knows what terp she likes. She asks for the COAs. She sees the lab results. I mean, she asks to search by terpene.
Right.
She wants the highest terp. Some people know not to shop by TAC.
Right.
We spend a lot of time explaining to people about letting go of the TAC thing.
Right.
And I use the analogy all the time of liquor stores, like, would you walk into your local liquor store and say, what's the highest ABV booze in here?
Do you have Everclear?
Yeah.
I'll take
like,
that.
Could I get the grain alcohol? Because I'm having a dinner party. I want everybody to get really rocked. It's like, that's not, so people, recently we've discovered this cultivation called Pudding Hill. They're the smallest, they're the microest license in the state of Massachusetts.
Okay.
And it's 2 guys who have very special taste in weed, and they're excellent growers, and they have the tiniest, it would fit in this room. Wow. and we love their weed. And they just won at NECANN for a very low testing, a strain called Violetta that's 13, I think, maybe a little less.
Wow, it's so low.
And it won second place for flower at NECANN the other day. And that's very interesting because it proves the point that when you don't know, you don't know.
You don't see the number.
It's not the placebo information of like, that's not going to be strong, is not in your mind. Right. You just smoke it. And you're like, wow, you feel amazing. It's delicious. For most people, it's an extremely pleasurable smoke.
Yeah.
Low tack can be amazing.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with nothing.
Yeah. So when it comes to like your smoking habits though, are you like purchasing strictly Sweetgrass stuff then? Because that's your...
I mean, I should say that, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that totally true? I still smoke a lot of my friends homegrown.
Oh, interesting.
I still have a lot of friends who grow.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? All these years, right?
I love outdoor weed. I mean, I love the weed we sell. And when I can get a sample, because someone leaves us something or whatever, I'm thrilled and I buy stuff. Yeah, I also, come from a time, sometimes I feel like, it's interesting working with all these people who came of age post-Prohibition. Being most of my adult life lived during Prohibition, where we never talked on the phone. Now I own a dispensary. Like I literally have conversations where I'm like, what time are you dropping off the weed to 635 Laurel Street? Like I can't believe that this is happening still.
Yeah,
I'm still in a state of like, oh my God.
Right. Do you still have that fear in the back that like you're going to get caught somehow? Or... Yeah,
I flew home from Florida the other day and my suitcase got singled out because of a tube of toothpaste, and it was too big. And she had a box of Happy Valley Super Lemon Haze pre-rolls in her hand. Not the custom agent. It wasn't international, but the TSA girl. And I was like, my heart dropped. I was like, because I did have that feeling of like my suitcase is being searched. A cop-ish person has weed in their hand, and I was like, wait a minute. Hold on. You're in Florida. It's legal. She looked at it very plainly, smelled like weed, I mean, it was
clearly through the pre-roll too.
Weed,
like, yeah.
And she just put it back and took the toothpaste and said, have a safe flight. And I was like, she took the damn toothpaste. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, I'm still not used to it. Like, I definitely have, when a cop's behind me and I'm smoking a joint or whatever, I still have the little like, oh my God, I'm going to jail.
Right.
And, people, hey, let's not forget, there are still people doing life sentences in this country. Lost their homes, lost their kids, lost their lives over weed.
I think we can easily get it. We live in our own little bubble sometimes.
Totally.
In New England where it's fully legal. Besides New Hampshire, basically everywhere around here is fully legal at this point. And you go to some other states and it's like, this is not allowed in any way.
No.
So
you can't smoke out in front of the bar. You can't, you still have to like hold the joint backwards in your hand. All the stuff that was normal to me. Is, I mean, Ben is a lot younger than me. And I mean, he definitely came up during Prohibition and in legacy situation, his family and everything. He's not unaware. He's definitely quite more paranoid than he should be for his age. He still has those moments about what we're doing or just about being out in the world. But also in Europe, like in France, it's very, very illegal.
Right.
So it's still like meet the guy at the fountain. He leaves it on the bench. Don't look at him. I mean, it's still like that.
Oh. Do you still travel internationally?
Yeah. I mean, since opening the dispensary, I haven't hardly left Route 7 between my home and, I'm just like...
Every day, back and forth,
Yeah. This is the longest I've ever been in the U.S. Without leaving since I was like 17.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm tethered to this business, which is okay. It's the baby, and I'm excited. I'm very excited to have the privilege of doing it. Because I really do come at it from that, like, I mean, I can't admit to having that flutter every day of like, I can't believe I get to do this, But it is always still there, kind of like, I can't believe I get to do this.
Yeah.
Legally.
Did you ever imagine yourself owning a dispensary at some point?
I mean, with Mama Editions, the publishing company in Paris, they opened a little Musée du Fumeur, it was called. It was a smoker's museum with a little cafe in it. It was like a bookstore, and they had a little anthropological sort of ethnographic display of like pipes from around the world and artworks. And And I participated a little bit in that. And I mean, having gone to Amsterdam at a really formative time in my life, I was like, a coffee shop, I love to cook. I want to have a coffee shop. I want to be sell weed and baked goods, and people can smoke and hang out and get a grilled cheese. And, I don't know if you go to Summit Lounge,
Oh, yeah.
But like Kyle has that in a way, it's like, yeah, of course I have that dream. Yeah. And a dispensary is sort of, partially, it's definitely something I, in a way, would have never dreamt of having, actually. Like, sure, I would have loved, but I just thought, also it was so clear that you needed gazillions of dollars to even get in the game.
Yeah, just get to the starting line.
Oof.
That's what we always say when we're going through the licensing process. Like, you get to pay rent the entire time.
And who knows, you might have to pay rent. Like Donna, who has Calyx in Great Barrington. Yeah. She went through some crazy, I don't want to tell her story for her, but she went through some horrible, as I did, trying to keep her hands on her real estate while she waited forever, years. I mean, I had to do the same.
Yeah. Fortunately, we only had about 18 months, but it was still kind of like that hand-wringing.
You're not making any money.
Paying rent every month, not making any money, just to get to the starting line to make your first dollar, basically.
And then you start and you're a newbie. Yeah. No one knows you. It's not like people are lined up banging on the door like, let us in to buy your syrup, right? I mean, it's like, it's new.
100%. Yeah, so that's very true.
It's like, oh, wow, I get to make my first dollar. How do I make my first dollar?
Exactly.
And that's been it's hard.
Are you going to end up wholesaling any of your products?
We are. We're in almost 50 stores around Massachusetts.
That's fantastic.
With all my edibles and topicals. We also won for our muscle salve at NECAN.
Oh, what?
Third place, I guess, for topicals. I hope I have that right. Second place for the butter. Yeah. So all that stuff is in stores around the state. And Michael, who, Lammy, is helping us get out into more stores. So we're hoping to be in like 100 stores. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great.
With the hash too, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you make great hash, you want to be able to share that.
Yes.
Are there good hash makers in Massachusetts?
Definitely. Yeah. Bountiful Farms is amazing. They won a ton of awards this last NECAN. There's a lot of great people, and there's a lot of great black market, legacy, non-traditional market, whatever. Are any of these euphemisms are so weird to me, but yeah.
Are they making the leap? Or some of these people?
Some of them are, like Michelin Terps. TJ is an amazing hash maker. We just did a collaboration with him. He came and, we badged him, and he came and made hash with us. We did a collab with him. He's also done that with others.
That seems like a natural way, because it's like, okay, we're licensed. Mm-hmm. You have these relationships you've formed over decades, and these people who just do really great things.
And maybe they don't have millions of dollars to try to get a manufacturer.
Exactly. You have it, so you can be that conduit for them to get their product out to the market.
And we didn't have it. We had to beat it out of the bushes.
I know, right?
People to give it to us and trust us.
Exactly.
And we have really, I have to say, we lucked out. We have such nice people behind us.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And they're not even weed people. They really support us, and they really understand. And thank God they have a construction background too. So during our build out, it was a tremendous help, because they were like, wait a minute, how much is the sheetrock? Let me call my guy. They helped us value engineer the build out on our place, which was really a renovation of an 1874 tavern. That was like, you'd touch this and this would follow. Like, oh no, like everything just unraveled. So it was
build-up process also was
complicated. It was hell.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're lucky to have nice investors, but the money, there's a lot of people. Like, we did a collaboration with Jen Doe, who's a famous female hash maker from Maine, now lives in Utah. Like, she's known Mila for years. She came out and we did a collaboration with some OMG Wellman Farm material. Mm-hmm. That was some of the most delicious hash we made. And we did a live demonstration, she and Ben, and people watched from our man trap. We have the, windows looking into.
So it's just like this glass looking to the lab.
Big glass windows where you can look in, you can see the hashtag machine, you can see the press. And we videotape and cast that image onto a TV.
Is there audio too?
Yes, and people ask questions during. So it's really, not to be too whatever about it, but if you ever paid for the Lost Art of Hashishan workshop with Frenchie or Nicotee or any of the prominent, or Cherry Blossom Bell, who is Frenchie's apprentice and now, master hash maker herself, she's picked up the mantle with Frenchie's wife, Kimberly, and continues to teach the Lost Art workshops all over the world. What Ben is doing for free in our lab is a 3-hour masterclass in solventless hash making. And he tells, I mean, sometimes I'm like, you know, like out of the view of the window, like, don't tell them that, you know, because he's a very open source, like he doesn't hide anything. He explains all the tricks that took him 15 years to learn. And, you know, he's won Legends of Hash. He's won Dabba-Doo. He's won at Emerald Cup. He's, you know, he's a young guy, you know, and it's like, he tells everybody everything, and it's free, and you just sit in our lobby and hang out and eat a muffin and have a cup of coffee. And, you know, you can raise your hand and say, but I don't understand, why is that the 90U bag producing more than the 120? And he'll say, well, you know, blah, blah, blah. And here, let me bring my camera over closer to this so you can see. I mean, he answers every question. And
that's amazing.
I mean, if you come to all of those, you could get the equivalent of, you know, a real education in how to do solventless hash. Like, he tells you everything.
I was signed up for one of the ones from Frenchie, and but then COVID happened.
Right.
So the one that was in Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah.
Solar was throwing.
Yes, and the guy from the Enthusiast, so the vape. Yeah.
I can't remember exactly.
Yes.
So long ago now, but like I remember signing up for it because I was already into hash, Frenchie's videos, and I was like, oh my God, he's coming to Massachusetts.
Yeah, I gotta go. And he was gonna process hemp. They usually do
hemp
in places like that where it's sketchy. Like, we were gonna. I mean, Frenchie was part of why he kind of gave me the idea, along with another friend, Vinny, of having a demonstration lab. Was like, he was supposed to be our first guest hash maker.
Oh, wow.
Was the plan, because I'd known him a long time.
Yeah.
And he passed away before we got open.
Yeah.
But we intend to have a whole array of guest hash makers regularly, like a few a year, where we do live demonstration. And I mean, we're constantly doing collaborations every day with different growers, like Trifecta, like Tower 3, like OMG, like Cape Cod Grow Lab.
How are you getting the word out for some of these things? It's hard, right?
Me, I don't know. I'm the social media girl. We're just doing everything ourselves. You know, it's just word of mouth. We don't have a publicity team. We don't.
Yeah, well, it's just hard. I mean, obviously the advertising rules in Massachusetts are really
very difficult.
Anyways.
We had a billboard. Yeah. You know, you can only say certain things. You can do print material, but you have to be careful who you mail them to.
Right.
You know, my partner in the business is my cousin, who has a financial background, thank God. And we've both become really proficient at Canva and do all of our own publicity stuff pretty much. And we're doing an event, a hash tasting at Summit on April 10th, because we have quite an array of different hash right now. So we want to present that to everybody and have a tasting. So we're doing something there, and we're doing the Mushroom Festival. And, we try to just create events, and also our partners, if it's, we won last year for the GMO that we made with High Ledges, and then High Ledges promotes it too. Yes. So whoever the grower is, they help us get the word out too, because they feel invested, because their name is on the hash. Right. We're not just we got the weed from who knows what.
Exactly.
We're we're no, times High Ledges on the jar, and people appreciate that because, Ben really believes, and I do too, this Frenchie concept of, growers create the quality, growers create the trichomes, and the hash maker accentuates it. Mm-hmm. You can't make good hash without it being there to do. Yeah. So, yeah.
So you should definitely send us anytime you're throwing an event, especially the hash making event, throw it to us, because we do have a newsletter we can send out to people that...
See, this is the kind of stuff that I don't even know. I will do that.
Yeah. We have it's called Jason's Highlights. Uh-huh. Basically, it's a newsletter with a bunch of industry people in it that would love to probably swing through there.
Great. Yeah, because we'd like more people to come to those. Because we promote them, internally. We put a sign out on the side of the road, and mostly the same people show up, or it's not super well attended yet. Wow. And it's free.
I know.
And it's kind of sometimes it's 3 hours long. I mean, sometimes we just go on and on because we're like, oh, you want to see this? Oh, he's going to roll some out Frenchie style with a hot water bottle. Yeah. We do that. We make temple balls. He loves it. We love it. So sometimes it just goes on all afternoon. Mm-hmm.
That was one of my favorite parts of the process that Frenchie outlined was the hot water bottle and rolling it out in turkey bags and all that stuff. And then at the end, especially when I was doing a lot of when I'm doing trim work and stuff like that, that's how I learned about charros.
Right.
I was just like, oh, like it's all over my gloves now.
Right.
Let me just like
scissor hash, we used to call it when we were trimming.
Exactly. It's just like everywhere. I'm like,
right.
Oh, I can consume this stuff right now.
And that's why he called himself Frenchy Cannoli, because when he'd roll out one of those thin pancakes, he'd roll it into a tube like a cannoli. Yeah.
Oh.
Before, rolling it. Yeah. That's where his moniker came from. But yeah, I think that this hash demonstration in a way is part of our sort of open source, like, let's share information. Let's not hoard intellectual property and knowledge about this. Like, I am not an innately, and probably to my detriment as a business person, like, I have been very surprised by some of the nasty competitive sabotagey weirdness that can be, because I mean, also coming from hospitality, it's like, your walk-in refrigerator breaks down, you call the restaurant next door and you're like, can I bring my stuff? Like, sure, come on, like, I ran out of this, can I get a bottle of wine or whatever, Right. It's not like that, really. I mean, I'm building those relationships now with the select people who I've found over the time, over the past, you find your people.
Yeah, there are some definitely good people, but there's definitely some shady characters out there that will, because, it's the most, and we tell our team all the time, don't throw shit on especially your competitors. Like, don't throw shit on them. Like,
everybody, there's enough cake for everybody.
Exactly. We're growing a category, and competition creates categories. And so, like, we're all for it. Like, let's just keep on going, and let's focus on ourselves. Let's not worry about what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, that's a big thing for us is like, and I think this is true whether you're opening a restaurant or putting out an album. Like, I don't know if you're into Rick Rubin or have ever read any of his books and stuff, but this concept of like, do what's right to you. Like, make the food that you think is delicious. Make the hash you want to smoke. Carry the flour you want to buy. Like, stick to what you know is good. Like, don't be influenced by, oh, this is trending. People want Blue Dream. People want disposable vapes. Well, sorry, I'm not.
And everybody else's menu be like, oh, these things. Let me go make all these things.
I mean, this is how we ended up with every restaurant in America has Caesar salad with grilled chicken. It's like, I want to blow my brains out. Like, really? That's all you can think of is Caesar salad with grilled chicken? Add salmon, add shrimp. It's like, I want to die. Like,
add protein.
Really? The quinoa bowl? I mean, I've been vegetarian since I was 16. It's like, can we move on? Like, that's what happened in the food industry. It's like, be creative, be yourself. And I'm really trying to stick to, it's hard because, you do have to answer to money people, and you do have to explain why you may not be doing a very popular thing. Like, why are you not making a gummy?
Right.
Well, I may do some collaboration gummies. We want to do something with Strawberry Hill, the CBD farm. That's a fantastic, with Jeff. Yeah. I want to do something with him, and I might toll process gummies for him under his own label or something. I'm not against it, Right. I'm not going to use gelatin.
Right.
But anyway, I'm not going to use food coloring. I'm not going to use corn syrup. I mean, I do have some. At the moment, I'm still sticking to my guns about certain things. I'm sure I'll, but right now we don't carry any disposable vapes. I don't believe in disposable vapes, It's a very popular item. So that's a hard stand to take, We do sell lots of threaded cartridges of all sorts, and we sell inexpensive $10 batteries that are rechargeable. And I'm sure most people are like, I could afford that. Let me just buy that. Like, yeah, you're right. I don't want to throw this away every 5 days. Like,
I know. It's just insane the amount of packaging we have to go through.
Oh, the industry is designed for landfills.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. The Mylars, the everything. And I hope that they eventually wake up to that they're obliging us to participate in a problem that, I mean, I cooked on green peas chips for years. Like, this kills me.
Yeah.
Like, I do not like having to do all this non-recyclable. I mean, luckily, thank God, we work with Heady Packaging, with Sarah and Connor at Heady Packaging, and they have, biocompostable plastic, and they have great recyclable glass options, and, compostable stuff through Humidity and various companies, and I try to always choose that. Yeah. Can I always choose that? Do I get credit for choosing that? Because it's like twice as expensive. Does anybody
care? Credit sometimes.
Well, I mean, does anybody we're trying,
exactly.
Like, I'm really trying.
Yeah.
It's hard, but the requirements in terms of child resistance are cool.
Plastic is just way better at child resistance.
I mean, those Lowell smokes, and, a lot of people are doing beautiful cardboard.
The hard paper boards,
things, and they're quite child resistant, but if you dismantle it, often there's some sort of piece of plastic which prevents the slip, and that's how that gizmo works. Right. And anyway, it's really hard.
Yeah, we're the same because we have glass and everything.
Yeah.
but the dropper is, there's going to be plastic to it. So it's just like, but for tamper evidence as well.
But then people reuse them. I keep these and put other things in, or I take off the top and I recycle the glass or whatever,
exactly. Always take the top off, recycle the bottles themselves. That was one of the big things we put in place from the very beginning was do no harm, right?
Just, do your best.
For me, it's just like, do no harm. Like, we can do things without having to impact on anything else in this world.
Right.
There's already too much being impacted.
Right. So, and also, I really feel like if cannabis people can't do this.
I know. Of all people.
Like, if not us, who?
Right, exactly.
You're not going to expect, big ag or big pharma to be the ones to lead the way.
Exactly.
It has to be us.
Right.
So it's like, every time I hear somebody be like, well, you don't have a disposable vape. And I go over and say, look, here's why. I'm not want to lecture you. Like, I totally get it. I know, but like, we've got great stuff in cartridges, get yourself a nice unit and recharge it. And like, and, whether it's virtue signaling or whatever people think, that's okay with me. I'll take the hits on that one,
Exactly.
And I don't think I have to concede the point on a lot of these things. I'm really trying to do the best I can in terms of packaging, in terms of ingredients, in terms of supporting organic products. And we're not a medical facility, but I do consider with every single thing I make in that kitchen that a sick person might use it. My mother's a cancer survivor. Ben's family has a lot of cancer. Cancer is everywhere. Disease is everywhere. I don't want to contribute, like you said, do no harm. I wouldn't make an edible that I wouldn't be comfortable giving my mother when she was in chemo and had the lowest, most vulnerable immunity. Like, it has to be clean enough to give anyone.
Right. I agree with that.
And that should be the criteria.
Absolutely.
And I don't care if it doesn't taste like bubble gum or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, that's okay. It could taste like an actual food.
Right, exactly.
So I'm trying to make stuff like that. And I think there's a response to it. I think people appreciate it. And if you want gummies and, things like that, there's plenty of choices. And I don't begrudge anybody enjoying that stuff. I'll eat a Swedish fish any day. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. I like a Sour Patch Kid with, when I'm hanging out with someone's kids or something. I'm like, oh, this is delicious. It's terrible. My tongue's blue.
I know, right?
But it's like, okay.
Occasionally it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Any other shout outs as we wrap? Anything else you want to bring up or anything
well, this Mushroom Festival June 7th and 8th is going to be fun. We're definitely going to do Dabadoo again.
And you said in New York though, most likely.
Yeah, close to the Berkshires in that part of New York. And I will definitely let you know we're doing on April 19th a hash demonstration at the Dispensary for 420 week.
Fantastic.
Right, because that's Friday. We're doing it on the Friday afternoon. Mm-hmm. And we do them really regularly. So I'll let you know. That's definitely... And we have a lot of really cool collabs about to drop, like very interesting hash coming out.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And we just started deli style. That's another thing I should say.
Okay.
Which I've always wanted to do. So that you have like a jar of weed and we get to like actually show you the weed, which is so torture, I find.
Yeah.
The fact that you have to buy something sight unseen and you don't even get to see it till you get out to your car and you open the pouch and you're like,
or whatever.
Like,
yeah.
Like sometimes it's such a bummer. Yeah. So I think it's fun to get to, and we've had so much fun choosing the weed that we're going to have for deli style because we're such dorks,
Right.
We dorked out over this, the jars, the tweezers, the which weed, totally. We're like obsessed with what we're going to, this one looks blue and this one looks like this, and that the 4 different things are really different from each other. Mm-hmm. And I think people are going to really like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
just launched then.
It's going to launch this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
With some really unusual stuff.
Right, so by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be launched.
Yes. I'm excited about that. I mean, it's going to be, it's not the fastest thing to do. You have to come in and be willing to like sniff and point and choose, and it's kind of fun, Mm-hmm. It's not the drive-through at Dunkin', it's going to be
exactly.
a little fussy, but
yeah, it's fussy. I think that's
but you leave with the bud you wanted.
Exactly.
Like that one. The one on the left, exactly. Like at the butcher where or whatever. You're like, I want this shrimp over here or whatever. You're choosing the best eggplant in the